this mechanism now, the hyperlink, that's extremely easy to use, to create. Hyperlinks are a little bit of semantics. They're a little bit of meaning. Because when I hyperlink to something, I'm indicating that other thing is interesting, and I also will almost always put it in a context on my page about why it's interesting. You got to go see this coffee recipe. It's delicious or it's horrible, and here's the link. So I've explained in language, the richest sort of semantic stuff we have, what the link is about. And that's very rich, especially since there's some persistence and publicness to links. I'm linking in a public space, on the web, and the links tend to stay there till I take my page down. So we have now this field of billions and billions and billions of pages with links and the semantics and all the rest of it, and we can start to make sense of it as human beings, because we go from page to page and we jump around, but we can also start to make sense of it more algorithmically. We have computers, and we can look at these things. We can start to make some assumptions, some broad assumptions about how people think and the like, which is what Google does. That's why Google works as well as it does. It looks at the links and other factors, and it makes some semantic judgments about what pages are about. This is a different model than we've had. We've had the notion that the right way to proceed is to curate a collection. If you want to be a good, responsible, knowing citizen, you deal with curated collections. We do this in a variety of libraries and education. Newspapers curate the news, and they all do it really usefully. But they do it really usefully in a way that doesn't scale very well. So it worked very nicely when there were only paper newspapers, paper libraries. Because there are a lot of books. There aren't that many books. Library of Congress, an institution I have profound respect for, gets 7,000 new things a day, and it has a staff of hundreds to deal with that by cataloging and saying, here's what it's about, here's how you can, because they have to put it into a sort of a taxonomy of sorts so that you can find it again. This is a photography book about India, and so we'll classify it that way. Well, that works fine for 7,000 a day. It does not work fine for 7 million a day, or whatever number of new things are being put on the web. You simply cannot do it. So that old model, which worked so well, breaks. The new one says, well, okay, we'll put stuff up, and we'll use a variety of techniques for labeling it and helping people to find it, and we'll invent a whole bunch of new ones, everything from tagging and folksonomies, where the readers get to say what it's about, not just the author and the publisher, but every reader can say this is what it's about. And a folksonomy that looks at that collection of tags and starts to figure out, for the benefit of the readers, here's the shape of the tagging, of the thinking about that thing. To the semantic web, which initially seems to have been inspired by a vision closer to the Library of Congress's, the traditional way of doing things, in which you have a set of experts decide, here's how things go together, which is an extremely useful thing to do. The question is whether it's going to scale. So we come up with all these new ways of doing it, of putting things together and helping us find them. But because this is in a highly scaled, that is a gigantic universe beyond imagining, no one of them works perfectly. They're all broken, they're all good for some things, but not perfect for anything, and not great for everything. And so we have these rough and ready ways of doing things that work well enough, generally. But something really interesting happens, I think. Because the old way of organizing, here's what it's about, have experts curate, here's what it's about, tag it, put it in a taxonomy, wasn't just a way of navigating. For a couple of millennium in the West, we thought that was also a way of making sense of the world. That in organizing and classifying, you were finding the natural order. That was the aim, to find the natural order. So that, a bird is an animal of a particular type. And we spent a lot of intellectual capital trying to figure out the natural order. Well, there's value in that, but it doesn't scale. It just doesn't scale. The page that you think is a great coffee recipe, I think is an example of bourgeois, and somebody else thinks is and so forth. There isn't one answer to what the thing is. And the techniques that we have now that are imperfect but that do work in a scaled environment give us a very different idea of how the world is put together. So rather than thinking there is a central order, a single order of the universe that we need to get right, we instead have, I think, a much more pragmatic view that says what a thing isn't any one thing, isn't its single place in the universe. It's how we're taking it for now, what use it is of us at the moment, what are our interests. That's how we're going to find it. And we're going to recognize that there's an indefinite number of ways of taking it across interests and across cultures and across time. The old way of organizing,